Burn the Priest, a.k.a. Lamb of God, PNG Lamb of God at Slayer, Final World TourWhen, May 16, 4 p.m. Where, Pacific Coliseum tickets, from $77 at Ticketmaster.caAs Lamb of God heads out on the road as a support act for Slayer on the legendary thrash metal act's farewell tour with additional support of Anthrax, Behemoth and Testament. The band is looking backwards. Before it was one of the biggest names in the new wave of American heavy metal movement, Lamb of God was known as Burn the Priest. Formed in 1994 at Virginia Commonwealth University in Richmond, Virginia, the group featured guitarists Mark Morton and Matt Connor, bassist John Campbell and drummer Chris Adler. Vocalist Randall Blythe joined in 1995, and the rest is history writ loud. Burn the Priest released its self-titled debut on Legion Records in 1999 and were quickly a big draw in the East Coast underground metal scene. With a sound as much hardcore as it was metal, the band changed its name to Lamb of God to avoid being mistaken for another one of the many satanic or black metal acts rising up across the country. On May 18, Lamb of God celebrates the 20th anniversary of that Burn the Priest debut with the release of Legion XX on Epic Records. A covers album of songs by bands that were a big influence on the musicians. It reads like a who's who of the 1990s hardcore punk scene with 10 covers of such seminal bands as Bad Brains, Eye Against Eye, Big Black, Kerosene, Melvins, Honey Bucket, and The Accused. Inherit the Earth. Outside of us playing ZZ Top's Just Got Paid in a way that was completely unrecognizable, we've never really done covers, although we've talked about doing a covers album for years, said Campbell. And with the 20th anniversary of that first record coming up, we thought we should combine the two and celebrate some of the bands that really influenced us back in the formative years, pre-Burn the Priest. It was a combined effort where we all submitted names and worked it down to the final list, with a lot of debate since nothing happens quickly when you do it by committee. Among the bands that the bassist is most happy to see included in the final 10 tunes of Legion 20 is Access Wrought by Slang Louse. This Richmond area punk crew never made much of a ripple outside of the local scene. What really stands out on the album for me is that we covered Slang Louse, who were Richmond legends, and whose name has come up every time since the cover album discussion began some 20-odd years ago, Campbell said. They recorded one album, which they never released, but then it appeared after they were defunct, and pretty much every kid in Richmond wound up owning a copy. Such is the history of far too many local legends from that era of music, including many of the bands whose songs grace Legion 20. In the pre-digital era, word of mouth, the back pages of magazines such as Thrasher and illegal warehouse gigs were how you discovered your music. Campbell said Lamb of God was pleased to bring attention to some of the forgotten heroes and hopes that the covers album will introduce some of the band's fans to these groups. Although they are a heavy metal band, he said that the early punk influences have always endured. We didn't make a conscious decision to get more metal as the years went on, we just got better at what we had always wanted to do, and that took us out of the punk rock element in that regard, he said. I still feel that when I'm on stage, I am still referring back to all of those punk shows I went to as a kid and trying to deliver that same kind of high-energy experience. Lamb of God announced a hiatus in April of 2017, and Campbell said the band has barely appeared on stage in the past 7 months. The group had toured relentlessly since releasing its first album with little downtime between the record release tour cycle. Also, the 2012 arrest of singer Randy Blythe in the Czech Republic and subsequent legal battles were difficult. After 19-year-old Daniel Nosek died of injuries sustained after being pushed off stage at a May 24, 2010, concert at Abaton in Prague, Blythe was accused of manslaughter. He was arrested 2 years later when the group returned to play Prague. Blythe was eventually acquitted. Recording Legion 20 was a way back into making music. but there are no firm tour plans in place and there is no new Lamb of God album in the works at the moment. So, technically, it will have been a few years since the group's last album, 2015-7, Stermund Drink, but when Slayer calls, you go, because it's an incredible honor to be asked to join them as they say goodbye, Campbell said. And the few dates we did with them last summer were some of the most smooth and entirely satisfying of my whole career. I expect that this is going to be more of the same. When they were Burn the Priest, they couldn't have imagined the day would come when they would grace the same stage as Slayer. It's been a long and steady rise for the group and they know who helped them get there too. There is a built-in thank you in the title of the covers album. Mikey Brosnan committed $2,500 of his own money to put out the Burn the Priest album on his label Legion Records, said Campbell. That was 20 years ago, so Legion 20 is a shout-out to him for his part in getting this whole thing started. As to whether Lamb of God toss in any of the Burn the Priest material into its sets on the Slayer tour, the bassist said that remains to be seen. There are a lot of Log fans to think of who have favorites they want to hear and there is only so much time in a set. Then again, those 1, 2, 3, 4 hardcore tunes are pretty short. Dairdine at postmedia.com, twitter.com/StuartDairdine.